Okay, so thank you very much for the invitation to be here today. I I was in a panel debate before, which I thought was quite interesting, and I shared this analogy that when I was walking over here, I couldn't really get over the street. I actually live in a hotel just on the other side of the road. Um, so I thought that was a bit strange that I didn't actually know that this would be a challenge. But thinking back, there are a lot of things that we can actually do quite well and do quite good. Um, so I come from a Danish company called Henning Larsen from Copenhagen. Um, I will share with you a bit how we work, and also a bit in terms of some of the things that are on our table at the moment. And then I will also kind of end with three case designs that are picking up a bit on how we are working with things. I would like you all to also have your phone available. You will know when, and I will tell you. But we have, in our practice, always talked about designing for people. Recently, we have been thinking a lot about this guy here, or her, which is our home. And I think I would like to start with these slides here. This is a mapping of the country's distance to ecological, safe and social just space. So I think if you kind of have the center as the plus that you want to get to, the further away you are to actually achieving this. And you can see that Saudi Arabia is actually on the same ring as Denmark. So we have a lot of different challenges, and we are now kind of trying to kind of find our way to be better. I guess you've heard about the planetary boundaries. This is the first in 2009, where we actually had crossed 3 of our 7 boundaries that we have been looking at and looking at to assess. In 2015, we've crossed 4. And in 2023, we actually have crossed 6 of the 9 boundaries. This is quite alarming, and it's actually including, when you start to look at this is, you could say, extinction time. When all of these are crossed, then basically we're going to have a really hard time surviving on this planet. And a huge part of this is, of course, that it's connected to my industry, or our industry. And I see all of you here, you're probably peers, maybe you are developers and so on and so forth. And I mean, I see you guys as our collaborators, or my collaborators. In 2015, we have a huge challenge. Will be 70% of our people on this planet will live in cities. And that means that we need to kind of build a new city for 1.5 million people every week. And we have been thinking a lot about what is needed to do that. And of course, there is a lot of different challenges, but we think that you need to future-proof business. You need to attract new talent. You need to create a work environment that is collaborative. You need to live closer to nature. You need to foster a diverse range of experiences. This is King Salman Park that we designed many years ago, which is now a huge construction site, which when it's finished, it's going to change the microclimate for the whole of Riyadh. We need to really think about long-term solutions, and also to secure flexibility and adaptability over time. Strong mobility strategies, and we need, maybe first and foremost, have the human scale experience as a priority. And maybe not only a human experience, we also talked about this in the panel, but actually have the human scale to become, and human experience to become, life-centric. You are all feeling this, which is also going in not the direction that we want, but it's getting hotter. So we need to design with resilience. And this is in Riyadh, but this is in Copenhagen. So we have a different problem. This is like 10 years ago, we got the first 100 years rain. completely flooded the whole of Copenhagen. Nobody was prepared for this. Insurance companies, they were just scratching their head. So we have a huge challenge in front of us. This is the late Henning Larsen, our founder. This is our office in Copenhagen. You are all welcome to come by. We have pretty good coffee. We are around 700 people, and we don't have any hierarchy in our office. It's very dialogue-based. Partners sit together with design directors and interns and so on and so forth, and the best idea wins. We have 3 pillars that we're working within, so architecture, urbanism, and landscape. And we are also, due to the fact that we have, it said 8 offices, but we actually have 9. We just opened one in Sydney. We cross-pollinate a lot of the knowledge, and we also are interested in where we are going and where we came from. So you could say that a lot of our discussion goes that we are looking at global trends. So we have gone from big and structured to small and dynamic. We have gone from owned and controlled to shared and collaborative, closed, stable and rigid, to open, agile and flexible. Risk averse, no mistakes, to let's make mistakes and let's learn from them. And I think that this is somewhat a core of a design community that we would like to kind of foster, because we live in a time of complex challenges and they are very different. So maybe a 4th pillar, or I would like to say actually that our 4th pillar in our practice is collaboration. Because if we don't foster that, and if we as a practice don't look at this as a design driver and how we can do that in the best way possible, we can't get the stakeholders to the table. So a bit on how we work. 17 years ago, we started our sustainability department. Today, it consists of 20 engineers, architects, PhDs, that are flanking everything that we do with sustainability strategies. They do that within different disciplines. They do different types of research, depending on where we are in the world. Maybe 7 years ago, it looked a bit like this. I know most of you know what this is, but we, of course, did also tried, at least 17 years ago, to do calculation on irradiation of sun and sky, the wind velocity and experience temperature, to get an understanding of what are the comfort levels here. Today, we work a bit differently, but with the same type of measurements. So this would be a plan or a volume study up in the left corner that we would share with our client. On the floor, we are mapping all the comfort levels that we can actually achieve to measure, to have discussions about where do we get wind tunnels, where is the best return on investment regards to outdoor seating, where is it cold, where is hot, where do you have a main entrance, where should we actually implement some nature to actually push the wind elsewhere, and so on and so forth. That is then mixed with drivers from the client, which is commercial. So we need to mix that with the public drivers that we come often with, and find a balance between these together. We go up and we change the volumes depending on what the discussion comes out, and we then throw it back to the client. The point being that when the client is discussing something that is moving, that is more livable and lively to kind of look at and discuss, have more information, the discussion is different. The collaboration is different. This is an example internally in our intranet that demonstrates all the capabilities that we have to measure different things, which our sustainability department is doing. Either it's shadow studies or it's energy efficiency on floor plates and so on. But it's just to also understand how long time does it take, how much cost does it actually cost to do these different measurements. We also developed the material pyramid, not the food pyramid, but you know the food pyramid pretty well. So don't eat too much red meat, don't have too much glass in your buildings, please. And also then to use that as a continuation of a dialogue with a client to see like what is actually the appropriate level of different materials to use in this project. Now take out your phone and scan the QR code. it's another way of kind of demonstrating what we are working with. So basically, this demonstrates a model that we are leaving with our client when we are finished with our meeting. Because we know that the client and our collaborators, they need their alone time. So they can actually then take this model, do snippets, and then do small kind of comments and send back a PDF to us and say like, okay, this didn't work, or this was really fine, or whatever. But it's just to say that the collaboration is key in order to kind of get to the point where we want to go. So we do a lot of applied research in architecture and also in urbanism. All the tools that you see here are in-house tools that we have developed ourselves. And that leaves us with from concept to, yes, what? So these 3 case studies, they are based on everything that you just have seen. So I hope that they kind of acknowledge a bit and how it actually then comes to life. We have been here for the past 45 years, almost 50 years in the kingdom. We have done many different projects. We have learned a lot working here around desert climate and so on and so forth, about different challenges that we're also using globally. So we are actually grateful for having had this opportunity to work on all these amazing projects and these with these clients. And the first one that I would just like to share with you is the SABIC headquarters in Jubail. It's almost 300,000 square meters, including parking, wellness areas, pools, and it's almost like a small village, you could say. It's situated in this new area in Jubail where it's just by the water. And what we thought was really interesting, given the fact that it's such a large company with so many people, and there's a high level of security. One part was for the global identity and the more secured area, and one part was the urban integration, which then needed to operate like so. So more contact to the surface or the public domain, and then you have the secured work environment above. But everything circling around this secret garden, or the business cloud that we would like to kind of call it. So in the middle you had this really beautiful kind of sunken garden, this meeting point for this village in a 3-dimensional form almost. This is some images from when it just opened, so the greenery doesn't look as green as we would like, but I'm sure right now it actually does. But it's an amazing meeting space, which is then designed out of looking very carefully in terms of how to actually shade yourself from the warmer wind that comes from the north, and then opening up in the structure from the south wind, and that gives you a climate which actually is a fairly big difference. It's above 10 degrees difference from out in the area on the right here, and when you're actually inside the garden. So of course that makes a huge difference from a working community point of view. We have done a lot of measurement on the facade to try to understand how can we use the facade to actually also create this really unique pattern, and how much we actually need to shade on each level or each surface of the facade. So we developed a lot of different facade tests, and in the end, and that's why I think it's kind of interesting that it's really this kind of cultural anchoring in a way, and this functional poetry at the same time, because it does what it needs to do in relation to the different orientation that the building has. And from afar, it's almost like this veil across the surface of the building. Inside, it's ever-changing in terms of where you are in the building to actually be that kind of high-performance facade and shade as it needs to do. Another project in a totally different scale is the CAFT master plan. It was the first district in the world that actually received the LEED Platinum certification. Now, of course, it's way much built out than what we can see here. But also that I shared during the panel debate, we travel around the world to kind of find out what is a financial district. But we landed actually in the old areas of Riyadh where this made so much sense. Why go away from how they were building in the past How can we actually kind of interpret that and make value of that in a 2.5 million square meters development? So we took the inspiration from the old city of Riyadh and also the meeting space outside Riyadh, which is the Wadi. And these two together with connectivity created for public domain. So you have the vernacular and the cultural heritage. You have the Wadi as the connector. And then you can leave your car in the periphery of the area and then basically just walk around. That was the vision which actually now has come to life. We did a lot of other different measurements, so around aerial use, microclimate, density, daylight and wind conditions in order to kind of have the discussion with the client to also get the maximum return of investment. But what we found out was the prevailing night wind in the southwest, coming in from the southwest, actually made us to massage the plan, and you can almost see how it come in. The wind comes in from down in the corner and then can flow through the plan, and that actually lowers the temperature. And this was the strategy that we thought, okay, can we actually achieve this? So when all the structure were finished, Jakob and Alf, they went down for 2 weeks to do a measurement of the temperatures in the Wadi, in the desert, and in central Riyadh. And we found out that there is 8 to 10 degrees different in temperature. And today the real estate agents and so on, they're using this, of course, together with the public domain as a lever for actually selling the square meters. So somehow it became this answer to a public domain that could become a community driver. There are many people here that, and maybe you also experienced it, that are going here that has nothing to do with the financial district, which is quite wonderful. So the last project I just wanted to share is actually one of the smaller buildings in this plan. And the whole plan and the whole CAFT was designed with this inspiration from the desert crystal. So also the buildings that look very modern, they actually derive from a local plan code that we created ourselves together with the client, that there should be some kind of crystalline connection which connects to the desert crystal. So we thought, and this is a very old rendering, could we actually do a small scale intervention just by the water that really was this kind of crystal that was standing out? And it looks super futuristic. And we thought that we will never get it to become like that. Another thing that inspired us a lot was fabric in the region is extremely evident everywhere. And it has this really kind of romantic connection to it, but also this kind of transparency, which is really, really intriguing. So that actually connected us to a German company called Creative Weave, which creates these bands of steel that actually then shades 65% of the solar radiation just by kind of sitting on the facade. So when you're inside, you can actually look pretty clearly to the outside, and from the outside it starts to shade and becomes this more kind of monolithic, quite special volume that then is tapering in on the corner, so you can actually walk in shade around the building. There are 3 different buildings all together, and they are sitting in the front of the wadi, so you can actually come and get refuge in the plaza in behind. So zooming a bit out, and I wanted to just kind of leave you with something to also think about when we are starting to look at the planet as a whole. And this is from a futurist called Parag Naga. He has done this beautiful map which shows the world as, or is thought the world as a body. So this would be the skeleton and the infrastructure of the Earth. This would be the vascular system, which would be also the smaller roads and so on going through, and all the power lines. And then you would have the nervous system that then binds everything together. So it's funny that when you look at it like this, it's very much also kind of encapsulating the challenge that we that we are looking at when we are looking at the world, because it's all connected. So I would argue that no single profession has the required knowledge alone to face and solve the challenges of sustainable urban designs. Innovation and inventive solutions will come from your team and your community and the collaboration that we can do with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vigo, for actually it's not a question. It's more like a note. Thank you for mentioning about the CAFT because, well, personally, aesthetically, it's very impressive. But it's only now that I realize that there was a design to make it cooler. And this is actually a very good marketing and sales pitch, which if I had not sat down and listened to you, I would not have realized that. Oh, that's a good point for selling, you know. So perhaps in promoting CAFT and your other projects, you mentioned that the design is not only geared towards the aesthetics, but it's actually for this purpose, for the environment and to make it cooler, you know. And I think that would, you know, increase the market value of your projects. Just a note, because it was a realization for me now. Like, wow, that's impressive, you know.
But and thanks for that. If I may just kind of comment on that, it hasn't always been the front of mind for developers to think in that kind of direction. We thought this out almost 20 years ago, and I was at MIPIM this year, where CAFT had a beautiful pavilion and a beautiful model, and they were there talking about the master plan and also with different clients, I would guess. Behind the model was a huge screen with a live feed from the Wadi, with people walking and so on, and they were all starting their conversation about the public domain. And for me, you know, being involved in this project, and that was a big aha moment, that the discussions that we've had with our clients has matured. It's not that, you know, the will hasn't been there. It's just that we are learning both ways, and suddenly this kind of dialogue and the purpose of the client, which we also need to pay attention to the return of investment and all of that, has leveled. I mean, it has reached a different level, which is quite wonderful.
All right, you know what? Let's dive a little bit into your process, if you don't mind. So, Henning Larsen has a strong evidence-based design process. Can you walk us through how you use constraints, context, and collaboration to shape projects from the very beginning?
Sure. So we have something we call the strategic concept. So we are very conscious of not designing in the beginning. We share this strategic concept with our clients, and that is basically pressure testing the brief, economy, and a lot of things so we can align expectations on where we want to go. So for example, we can say that we have a site here, we have a green area here, and there's a green area on the other side of the site, and we have nothing to do with those green areas. But a part of the strategic concept could be that we need to create a green corridor. Are we agreeing on that? So that is the first thing. And then when we start looking, at all the constraints. All the constraints are then fed into the sustainability team that are amplifying those, so we understand where it hurts the most in times of climate, in times of noise, pollution, and all of those things. And we mix that with the brief that we are given by the client, and then we start sketching. So when we start sketching, the client and all the stakeholders and collaborators, they understand a bit from the beginning why we are doing certain things, and they are on board and then can contribute in a totally different way. And then the process starts, the design process.
And that's also what you've shown us in the presentation,
Yeah.
right? Like how this is all mapped out. So you've worked in the region for more than 15 years. I heard you say 20 also. In that time, what has been the most defining moment or project for you personally? Would that be CAFT?
I think that would be CAFT right now, because right now you can really see the huge impact that it has, and we weren't sure, and it has also had its moment in tempo in terms of development. So now it's kind of come to a different level that just gives us a lot of information in terms of what works and what doesn't work. I also think that King Salman Park is a huge differentiator in terms of, you know, what we can do, and also what you maybe need to you need to go out on a limb to actually make a huge change that is gonna be a mega investment, but in the long-term solution is gonna change the climate for, I mean, the whole of Riyadh.
So clients here are becoming increasingly knowledgeable, as I'm sure you've noticed, and ambition comes with that too, right? So how do you see this influencing the way projects are conceived and delivered? I'm also certain that a project like KAFT must open so many doors for you, right?
It does, absolutely. But, and I mean, I think the answer to that would be to listen and also come with some of the experience that we have, which is not in the Middle East. And then at an early stage, have the conversation with the client in terms of, again, what are their ambitions? And if it's about price, for example, it's also about then people again. Because, I mean, if you don't have the diversity and you don't find the means to attract a variety of people, you're also going to have a challenge which is not future-proofed in the same way.
So when you arrive on a new site in the kingdom, what's for you personally the first thing that you look for or notice that shapes your design thinking? Like, how do you go about it?
Okay, there are two maybe a bit kind of squarish examples, but a lot of the time it is just a brown field because there's not too much there is not too much context.
Yeah.
So what we then do is that we dive, and we've done it so many times, so now we're starting to kind of develop this cultural anchoring in a different way. But there needs to be something that is then connected to the function that we are designing. So and that can be many different things, but it needs to point back and needs to have that cultural anchoring. And if it has a context, then basically either it's a creek or it is a dense area, then scale becomes extremely evident together with all the constraints that comes with that, which are, you know, the normal stuff in regards to infrastructure and so on and so forth. So I think that we would look for the basics, and we would look for the constraints, and then we would look inwards, depending on where we are, how that cultural heritage would fit into that context.
Yeah. We've also seen in your presentation, you spoke a lot about it actually, the approach to sustainability, right? So, you know, I think it's clear that this is at the core of Henning Larsen's work for decades, right? How do you bring climate responsive strategies into projects in Saudi Arabia's extreme environment while also keeping them culturally authentic?
It's a bit what I said before, that the cultural anchoring, and depending on what it is core. And I think that we are using a lot of scientific studies and so on, and a lot of engineering that is creating possibilities in terms of how to be more energy efficient. But at the core, we are also designers. So we are looking for the poetry, we are looking for the stories to combine with that technology that we bring. And I think that's the sweet spot that we want to try to kind of achieve. So I think this kind of functional poetry is really tough to land on, but that is the sweet spot.
To take it beyond the technical goal as well, right?
Yeah, because you can get super scared looking at all of this and say like, whew, okay, I mean, are you an architectural company or are you an engineering company? And I think it's extremely important that it has different tempos in terms of when we do what. So you need to have evidence for what you are designing an icon out of.
Yeah.
I mean, we are not interested in designing icons that falls down from the sky, and we need to have evidence to the stories that our clients should be able to tell when they are looking at their product, and what we can tell when we are looking at this beautiful something, you know?
Yeah. Designing for people first is a beautiful, powerful idea. Was there a project either here or perhaps abroad, where you saw this principle come alive most clearly?
One that just comes to mind is the Siemens global headquarters in Munich, which the site is right in the center of Munich. It is a part of the city which is a gateway to the more artistic part and the museum part of Munich, and then in the city. And then if you wanted to put like global headquarters, it would stop a lot of the flows of public people that would kind of go through there. So what we created was a new type of work environment with a lot of different courtyards, and then basically the headquarters was kind of constructed around those headquarters. You in the ground floor you can walk right through as you always have done. And the biggest testament of that we achieved that kind of public anchoring was when the CEO of Munich of Siemens, gathered all the workers down in a huge basement and said that now we're going to work differently and we're going to give back to Germany and to Munich. We're going to show that Siemens is part of the community and so on. And today starts that journey. And then he took his tie off. And everybody, what? You can't do that. You know,
well, in Germany.
So,
Yeah.
in Germany. So sometimes architecture can really make a huge change.
That's a beautiful example. If you could leave this audience with one takeaway about designing tomorrow's Saudi Arabia, what would it be?
That would be to really listen and talk to the right people, to get an alignment on what the goals are, and then put life first and see what comes back. Because you can't just design something and not thinking about that. If you do so, you're missing a lot of opportunities along the way, and you are not creating a better world.
Beautiful. Put life first. Let me check if there are some questions from the audience in the meantime. Can we give a microphone to Samaya, please?
Thank you very much for really fascinating insight into how Henning Larsen's work. I really liked what you added, because at some point it looked very scientific, what you added about the poetry. But actually my question is, having been in the region for decades, how do you see the fast change in the last 6 years, 7 years in Saudi, in terms of obviously the vision, but also working in that environment as an architect? How has that been for you?
I think that we have had our own struggles, you know, in terms of how to work in Saudi. We have very large projects here that are also quite different. I would say that that has also been at a pause, you could say, for the past maybe 5-7 years more than usually. And now it's in recent 2 years it's kind of amplified. And I must say that this pace that is I mean, it's always been fast, but the pace and the maturity in the discussions that we find ourselves in, I find extremely positive. And then there are other examples that I'm not going to mention that are maybe exploring things that are challenging to making a better environment, and maybe utopian in a bad sense. But I would say that the pace and the change is something that we see extremely positive. Our take on that would be to embrace, and then to have that discussion that I've been banging on about, to listen and to amplify the questions around what is important for the client. And I would say that when it goes so fast, change also goes fast. So when we are approached by someone that wants like extreme dense area with towers with no sun at the ground floor and so on, and they think it's a fantastic idea, and we are all for it. we go in and we push hard to make a change and have the conversation why it's a bad idea. And then we need to find ourselves meeting that wall together, and then we'll see if that change actually can happen. And I think projects like that, which are extremely challenging to our environment, to us as human beings, where the client maybe have the best idea where they come from, I think we also need to take our responsibility and try to kind of change that. And those changes sometimes happen, and then it goes super fast. And that is what's needed if we are looking at the planet. So in many ways, the region in itself, with all its challenges, when change goes so fast, it's also front runner to other that move slower, like many areas in Europe. This is how we can make change really fast.
Thank you.
Thanks for your questions, Maya. All right, we're out of time. Thank you so much,
Thanks, guys.
Viggo, for taking us into your beautiful world. Let's give a big applause for Viggo Harens. Thank you so much.